Welcome back to the Student Hub Live STEM Freshers event. Well, I really hope you are having a good time at this event. I hope you're enjoying meeting other people. I have some great guests lined up for you in this session. We're going to be talking about tutor support, help and guidance. And I have Katie Shiko, who is a staff tutor and the CEO of Maths World UK. Very prestigious. Andrew Potter, who's a staff tutor and equality, diversity and inclusion leader for maths and statistics, and Sally Crichton, who is a staff tutor and the chair of MU123. So, Vic, people have some maths problems. I think these are very people who can help allay some of the fears. What's going on? What's the problem with the maths?
Well, so earlier on, maths experts, we had quite a few people that were saying how nervous they were about maths, frightened of maths, scared, general things that said they were unsure about it. And so I'm hoping you're going to be able to reassure them. There's luckily also some people that say they really enjoy maths, but we've got an actual question relating to the purchase of a scientific calculator. Is this necessary? This came from James.
So
that's
our
the first
panel,
question to chuck in.
should James buy a scientific calculator?
Well,
Hi, Karen.
I'll jump in. Carry on, Katie.
No, Sally, go ahead. You're the chair of MU123. You know everything about starting off with maths.
I was going to say, I think a scientific calculator is a good idea. You don't need a super special graphic one or anything, but a basic scientific calculator would be a very, very good investment. And you can pick them up for about a tenner or something. And so, but yes, if you study MU123, and of course we think that would be a brilliant idea, then there's quite a lot of advice about that. But if you would like to, I can join in the chat afterwards to give you a bit more information about that.
Brilliant. So save questions for Sally, and I think Katie, you're going to pop in as well, and maybe Andrew, you will too, so they can come and talk to you after the session also. So Katie, one of the things we've been talking about is preparedness to study, and I wanted to ask about this, but also in general, are there any, I guess, maths resources that may be useful to spend the last week or so before the official date of module start in preparation?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I do want to just quickly refer to those maths fears that you talked about. So, like, the very, very first thing I want to say is, please don't be worried. We're the team that deals with the first module you do for maths, and the OU has been going for 50 years now, and every single cohort has had people who are afraid of maths in it, and it is very much our mission to take you from that position to a position where you would just love maths, and certainly you would wonder why you were afraid about it in the past. You know, what has that person done to you to make you afraid of something which is so logical and natural? But in terms of things you might be doing to get started with before your modules start, and what maths resources there are, we do have a subject study site. So whatever subject you are studying has a subject study site, and on that study site there are a whole bunch of resources that you would do well to look at. So it's like a wrapper that goes around your whole qualification and takes you from module to module. So it will have things like how to choose your next module, some taster materials, some Are You Ready quizzes, so you can feel a bit more confident about being ready for that module. And it also has something to look forward. So it has things to do with your careers after that you've been studying. It has things to do with general study skills. So things about, preparing TMAs and communicating your mathematics well. So it's a all-round wrapper to guide you through your studies. So it'd be a good idea to have a look at that site if you haven't already. I wonder if we could ask our students if they've looked at it already, Karen?
Let's see. We've got a few polls that we'd like you to vote on at home. So the first one is, have you visited the subject study site? And the second one is, have you looked at the module's taster material or the Are You Ready for Study quiz? Now, these are only relevant to some modules, so don't panic if you don't have one. But, well, we'd like to know at home, and Angela will tell me when the results are in for those particular widgets. So, so get voting on them. Just click on the option that you'd like to vote on, select the one that applies to you, and then you'll also be able to see what everybody else at home thinks also. So let's see if we have those results in the next second or so. Otherwise, we'll move on. Right, let's see. So, have you visited the subject study site? Well, 99% of our audience are saying that they have visited the subject study site, which is absolutely brilliant. So, Katie, big thumbs up. That's an important thing. Why is that so important to have done?
Well, one thing that will often concern us, if someone's coming for their first module or subsequent modules, we really need to know that people have thought about what they're going to study and they've gone in at the right level. There are 2 entry points to a maths degree, and there will be other entry points as well for other degrees. And it is important to choose the entry point that's right for you, because the last thing we want is for people to start off on their studies and think, oh, maths is too hard for me, I can't do maths, which is something which is never the case. You know, everybody can improve, but if you go in, you know, if you jump in and trying to start doing a PhD, you know, from where you are, you might come away with the wrong impression that you weren't ready to study maths or you couldn't study maths. It's really important to go in, to enter slightly in your comfort zone, and then so that you're ready to grow, so that you're not scared off and you're not suddenly anxious and phobic of maths. So I'm really delighted that people have thought about where they start their studies and have kind of got themselves prepared. And there's other things you can do to prepare as well. I don't know if Andrew, perhaps you'd like to say some of the other things people can do before they start, as well as studying the study site. You know, there's sort of general module things you can do to prepare.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like things like, looking at people's, like having a conversation with your tutor, honestly, is probably the best way to start, because, your tutor is the person who is, tasked with bringing you through the module, and they're going to be, they've seen it all. Believe you me, I've had students from all walks of life when I was a tutor as well. People who have not done maths for 30 years, people who have just come straight in from school. We've seen it all, and they are just such a good resource. And really, it's really important to remember that your tutor wants to hear from you as well. They want to speak to you and start
Well,
that
Andrew,
conversation.
I wonder if we could talk a little bit about this, because we've asked, by the way, also Casey, just before we sort of finish on that thing, 93% said that they had looked at the module taster Are You Ready quiz. So I think people are really geared up on those 2 aspects, which is wonderful. But Andrew, only 7% of our students have been contacted by their tutor yet, with 93% saying no. And when we asked, have you replied to your tutor's introductory email, 28% said yes and 72% said no, perhaps again reflecting this. And we know that modules haven't quite started yet. There have been some late registrations, and should people be panicking by now if they haven't heard from their tutor?
Absolutely not. No. As you say, this happens kind of on a rolling basis. So some people will know who their tutor is going to be, and some haven't been notified yet, and that's totally normal. If you have heard from your tutor, or you know who your tutor is, you've had an email through that says who's going to be your tutor, then pop them a line. And it doesn't have to be a long email. It can just be saying, hello, hi, my name's so-and-so, and I'm really nervous, or I'm really excited, or whatever it is. But just making that initial contact with your tutor is really important, I think.
Brilliant. So people will start, if they haven't had those allocated, they will be starting to get those through around about the time before module starts. But really, when the module starts is a great time to make contact. Sally, why is it so important to make early contact with your tutor?
Oh, okay. Well, I think I was speaking, funnily enough, with a collection of some tutors last night, and they were reminding me actually, how excited they are to get to see a group of their new students. And sometimes tutors will teach on the same module from presentation to presentation. And the thing that brings the module to life for them is, of course, their students, their group of 20 or so students they have to themselves. And that's what keeps our tutors in a job that they love. They're here, they work with the Open University because they love working with students. And for MU123, which is our module, just picking up from what Katie said, most people, the overwhelming majority of students, tell us that they enjoy it. So I think maths is definitely something that we persuade you to enjoy. But for your tutors, it just brings the module to life for them. And for students, everybody gets module materials, and you've got fabulous resources on the website, but your own tutor can make the most marvellous difference to your experience of the module, because not only do you bring the Open University to life for them, they can bring the Open University and mathematics to life for you. They are there excited about hearing who you are, and it makes it a much, much better place for all of us when we talk. It's the human face of the Open University, really important. So please, please contact your tutor, because they're really, really interested in hearing from you.
They are. And very often they have jobs at other institutions. As you said, they work with the Open University. So many of them work part-time, although some may have a few different groups, and for them it then is a full-time job. But typically they do have other things on. So drop them an email, and typically they'll reply in a sort of maximum, I think, of a couple of days. So don't panic if you send that introductory email off and your tutor hasn't responded quite yet, because they're often juggling like students are. I think this also makes them very sympathetic to the many juggles that we have in our lives. So they will get in touch with you, but just be mindful that they do often have other commitments as well. So that's important. So these sort of things, Sally, you're talking about here, I'm getting the sense that this is about a learning and a supportive relationship, as opposed to, being right about something or getting it spot on. We were talking about early assignments a little bit earlier in today's programme as well. I wonder if our panel have any advice for students who sort of have that anxiety, in particular, I think, with maths, where we can think, well, there must be a categorically right or wrong answer, which, as we know, there often isn't in that sort of sense, and that there's a lot more to it than just 1 + 1 = 2. But I wonder if you can sort of talk us through about that learning, that feedback that's so unique to the university in terms of how assessments are marked specifically by that tutor for that student to develop their own learning. So, Casey, do you want to pick that up?
Sure, yeah, because it just reminds me of what you were just saying then. So that's partly the reason that it's really nice to be in contact with your tutor, is because as you're building that relationship with them, it is more and more comfortable to be able to do something which you feel is like a silly or wrong. So the point is, you start with what you know, and we know you don't know everything, otherwise why would you be on the module? So you don't know everything, and you're learning and you're growing, and honestly, if you never made a mistake, how would you ever grow? So we definitely want people to develop a comfortable relationship with their tutors. Their tutors really like working with you. And for all you were saying about, tutors might be busy, they might get back to you in 2 days. There's never a bad time to contact your tutor. If your tutor is not available to talk to you, they can always call you back. It's okay to phone your tutor. I'm not talking about 3 o'clock in the night, but if you're making a reasonable request to your tutor, they want to hear from you. So please get in touch. And then when you're putting in your assignments, it's exactly the same thing. That assignment is there so that your tutor can help you grow. It's not there so that we can judge you and look down on you. So it doesn't matter if you make a mistake, because honestly, we just want to know what you've understood so that we can help you understand the rest. So you're not supposed to know it all now, otherwise you wouldn't be studying. So make the mistakes. If you don't make any, person who ever made a single mistake never did anything. So make the mistake and then grow.
Brilliant. That's really wonderful advice. I hope that's allayed fears for people at home, and demonstrated how approachable and excited, in fact, tutors are to work with students. There's nothing more rewarding, I think, than experiencing someone's growth and their journey with them, and seeing them overcome those challenges, and perhaps doing the same things over and over again, but finally, hopefully, overcoming some of those. So other things I wanted to talk to you guys about, because you're very good at time management and time planning, and I think this is very important. Many of our students are increasingly studying 2 modules, so they may be doing full-time intensity study, but we always know that as sort of distance learners, we're often fitting study into other commitments. We don't have the luxury of being in a nice student flat with nothing else to do but drink beer. So we've asked people whether they've had a look at tutorials. 73% said yes, and 27% said no. That's a really good thing to start doing, and we'll go through that. But let's see whether they've put their TMA, their tutor marked assignments, and ICMA, that's your interactive computer marked assignments. So this is your assessment. These are your deadlines, your tasks that you're going to be doing throughout the year. Let's see whether people have put those in their diary. So 73% have said yes. So that is very good. So what can our panel say about this in terms of time management and planning? Thinking about getting ready, what's your advice to students about fitting it all in?
I think I would say that it is it's great to see that so many of the students have done that already. I was certainly, I think you said we were experts in time management. That is certainly not the case for me. I've always been a bit difficult. I always take on a bit too much, I think, in the beginning of things. And I think just being able to know when the TMAs are in your diary just helps you to be able to think, right, I'm going to be really, really busy that week preceding. And it just helps you to say, well, plan other things around. Maybe you've got school holidays coming up or whatever it is that's you can look in advance towards. But everybody has goes wrong. Their plans go wrong very, very quickly. I've been in that position, several times myself as a student of the OU as well, where I've kind of got too busy at work, and I've let my studies kind of drop out a little bit. And I think the key thing for me in getting over that was getting in touch with my tutor. And it was the most painful thing in the world, like having to call up as a staff member of the OU as well, like who's supposed to be good at this sort of thing, having to call up and say, I'm really, really sorry, but I'm not going to be able to get my TMA in on time. And my tutor was so lovely and so understanding, and she said, she just kind of said, "Oh, don't worry, these things happen, and just let me know when you can get it in, or what can I do to support you." And I think it's just really important for everyone to realize that tutors are not there to crack the whip on you. They're there to support you and help. And if they can help you get back on track, then they will. So always remember that the person behind the email address or behind the phone is a real person who wants you to succeed.
Thank you. That's absolutely wonderful, Andrew. We're nearly out of time. So my last point, I'd like to look at our graph here. One comment that I read in the chat a little bit earlier was someone said, I could have done this once, but I'm not sure I can do it now. And we'd ask people whether they believe their intelligence is fixed or whether it can grow. And let's see what people at home said. So 92% believe that it can grow. And Sally, could I ask for your final thoughts on this in terms of how this might apply to OU students?
I think it applies 100 million billion %. Of course you can. I think I've got my piano behind me. If I want to grow, I need to practice. What you have to do as a student is, especially a maths one, start to write. Don't put it off. Keep writing. If anything's tricky, go to a tutorial. That's where the tutors will help you with things that they know are tricky. But make a good start on things. When you have your assignments, open them, put your name on them, be active, get in there. There's plenty of support. There's other students. But you have to, don't be afraid to open the book, to start to write your name on the tutor marked assessment and enjoy it. We'll make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time, but we learn from them. Intelligence will definitely grow.
Brilliant. Well, that is wonderful. Katie and Sally and Andrew, thank you so much. That's been an amazing session. I'm sure that many students who may have been a bit anxious about maths have at least met some of the wonderful faces and seen the passion and enthusiasm, and are reassured by the fact that you're going to teach them maths in a really wonderful and accessible way, which I know you do. I don't think any maths students have died while studying mathematics at the Open University as a result of the module material. So although, we're not talking to statisticians here. So actually we are. But anyway, I must move on. We have our next session coming up. So we're going to play you some videos. And before we move on to that next session, we're going to find out about the Open STEM Labs. So we're going to show you some videos from the library. What is Cite Them Right Anyway, a new referencing system, and referencing Where Can I Go for Help, and an Open STEM virtual tour. So we'll see you after those quick videos. Grab a cup of tea or coffee and do stay with us for more. See you soon.